Okay, guys, we're going to move on to some Hasan content. I don't cover Hasan that much, or at least I haven't so far on my channel. But this one, I thought it was going to go away. I really did. I didn't think that this story was going to last this long, so I didn't even think about covering it at the beginning. But Hasan's Cuba trip is still pissing people off, but also just the general anti-Semitism posters online, the typical ones, um, are going real fucking nutty on like trying to get Hasan canceled or whatever, which is just kind of ridiculous in my perspective. Like I mean, he's said it before, but he's not like some, you know, like extremist weird like extremist or whatever when it comes to the Democratic Party. Like his positions have a very broad base of support in the base of the party. If you talk about just the base of the party, like that core, like I don't know, say 30 to 40% of like progressives, I guess, like he's probably representative of, I'd say like 90% of their views, or like 80, maybe like 80% of their views. Like 80% of those people like would probably, if they knew who Hasan was, would kind of be on, his side, or at least like the statements and policy goals that he wants and all that sort of stuff. So there's just like a whole lot of like manufactured outrage from the centrist neoliberal establishment who kind of realizes that they're losing all of their power. So anyway, I guess he went on CNN to kind of talk about this a little bit. I know CNN in particular has been like really going after him like fucking hard lately. Just kind of taking all the things that these like special interest groups like say at face value, which way to do good reporting, Clinton News Network, right? Like, shouldn't you be like looking into these things instead of just like, quoting them and quoting the talking points that you're given by like the ADL or whatever? But okay, anyway, let's go ahead and watch this video. We'll see what Hasan has to say, both about Cuba, but maybe also about some of the quote unquote controversies that he's been a part of. So here we go.
One of the biggest social media influencers and political commentators in the world, with millions of followers online. He just returned from a visit to Cuba, where he saw conditions on the ground firsthand. Hasan Piker, welcome to The Story Is for the first time. Thanks for being here.
Wow. He looks really professional here. I won't lie. I love the, like, he looks very collegiate. You know what I'm saying? Like he should be a professor at a college or something.
Thank you for having me.
Paint us a picture of what it's like on the ground. What'd you see?
When I first landed in Cuba, I was taken aback by how beautiful everything was. You got the 1950s cars.
I've heard this story a lot, by the way.
It's a tropical island destination. But very quickly thereafter, as soon as we got into Havana, the main city area where people congregate, I couldn't believe the sights that I was seeing. It was very sad. You had homes that looked like they were bombed out. Our tour guide at the time said that this was somewhat of a product of hurricane season and how difficult it is to like repair these buildings. And I already had known about the rolling blackouts, and I experienced them later in the day. And it was definitely unlike anything I've ever experienced before. Everything's pitch black. There aren't any traffic lights on. Like it's crazy, right? But I was taken aback. I was very sad by all the poverty that I saw, and then I was very angry. It was actually Ben Rhodes who told me that I would get very sad when I first went to...
Former Obama foreign policy advisor.
Former Obama foreign policy advisor Ben Rhodes, who was formative in the previous normalization agreement with Cuba that Barack Obama had orchestrated, and he was right. It was very sad to see.
One of the
but then it was very
better things he did,
angry.
I think.
It was very anger-inducing because I felt like there was a lot of potential on this island that we were just robbing the people of, and it's totally cruel and totally unnecessary. And it was part of the reason why I went to Cuba, because I've heard a lot about Cuban organizing, the Cuban government. I'd read a lot about it.
Sure.
I knew about the island's history of developing sovereignty, but I'd also heard about this blockade, right? And I wanted to figure out exactly how this blockade was harming people directly, and in many ways that are indirect, because the blockade itself is designed to be invisible. It's a system of sanctions. It's this like bureaucratic nightmare that basically renders it impossible for the island to do regular commerce, just like any other country. Banks can't take out loans from any other banks. And you, as an American citizen, as a matter of fact, have a lot of restrictions on what you can and can't do, both on the island or if you wanted to even send money. If you have relatives on the island, it's a very difficult process to like directly send cash payments to your relatives as well. It's totally unnecessary. These rules are so arbitrary, and yet they're so damaging to everyone, to everyday Cuban existence.
What were you most surprised by actually seeing it up close and personal?
I was surprised by the resilience. I was surprised by the fact that people, in spite
so far, this news guy he seems pretty reasonable. He's not being like, a really like combative freak about like, yeah, but the communist government had a part to do in it, right? Like, I mean, maybe he'll do that later. I don't know for sure, but he's being surprisingly reasonable so far.
In spite of all of these, struggles, we're still surviving, right? They had a relatively chill attitude about everything, which was somewhat shocking to me because I feel like I'm a much more high intensity person. But I was also really impressed with the accomplishments that they've made in places like biomedical, in the biomedical field.
What do you think is at this point the biggest need? Because we hear like the New York Times reporting about the fact that the power goes off in the hospitals and like babies are having to, be hand pumped to keep them alive in certain situations. I mean, what do you think's the...
That was Ryan Grimm. Ryan Grimm, I think, did some of that reporting about, it's terrible. That's why I say like our goal as America is to kill as many infants and elderly people as we possibly can, because that's legitimately what it feels like we're trying to do.
The greatest need
is oil
on the ground.
100%. And it's actually totally legal for Cuba to trade with other countries. It's just that America makes it impossible. So what is a necessity is for the grid to come back alive. And for that to happen, they need to get oil. And I believe there's a Russian tanker that just docked in Havana as of this morning, if I'm not mistaken, with 730,000 barrels of oil, which will provide much needed respite and will allow the Cuban energy grid to survive. They'll still ration it heavily, but this way medicine can be transported on the island.
I want to give you a chance to respond to two criticisms of this trip that have gotten widely reported.
Okay,
the New York Times sort of called you out for the fact that you all stayed in a nice hotel that was very luxurious compared to a lot of what the people on the island are dealing with every day. What's your response to the allegations of hypocrisy there?
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting as well. So we went on a humanitarian aid mission with foreign dignitaries, delegates, advocates, activists, journalists, and the like. It was around 200, 300, 400 people. I'm not exactly sure on the number, but the American government has placed, and this was fascinating to me, we had to get an OFAC clearance from the Treasury Department just to go, right? Yeah. And the American government has actually created these incredible restrictions that only allow American citizens to stay in four hotels on the island. There are thousands of hotels on the island, but we can only stay in 4. And if I don't stay in a hotel, and these are 5-star hotels, according to the American government, if I don't stay in one of those hotels, I could go to prison for 10 years and have to pay a $250,000 fine. Wow. I'm an American citizen. Yeah. It's so totally ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it.
And real quickly, there are a lot of people that are...
It was a good answer, and he's doing it. So one complaint that I often give Hasan is that he lets his ADHD go a little too out of control on his interviews and stuff, and he goes from like he forgets what the original question is and kind of goes off on a tangent or whatever. He's being very short and direct here, and I think he's communicating really well on this one.
Are watching this, especially places like South Florida that feel like the regime is repressive, that it's been a terrible regime, that it's killed people, and that what you're doing is propping them up. What do you say to that?
I just don't want babies to die. I don't want people to suffer. I think that the difference in opinion as far as like how Cuba governs itself is up to the Cuban population. I just want, as an American citizen, to stop putting our hand on the scale in this incredibly violent way. Because the results are unbelievably violent.
Yeah, 100%. It is up to the Cuban people. America shouldn't be getting involved in any other country's foreign affairs whatsoever. Like that's just my principle, like my position as an anti-imperialist. even if for like, okay, even if like there was, say, some benefit to America, like let's say because we put our thumb on the scale in Taiwan or whatever, that like allows us to get cheap semiconductors, which then allows us to produce stuff at a cheaper cost or whatever by exploiting foreign labor or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's pretend like that's the situation. Even in that situation, I don't think that we should get involved in like, preventing, say, uprisings or like propping up a certain political party or whatever in that instance, even if there would be like some sort of quote unquote benefit to the United States for doing that thing, because it's immoral to try to essentially exploit the population of a foreign country to get things that you want, right? Like, I just think it's you are inherently changing the direction and the course, like in my opinion, always against the will of the people by doing that sort of thing. Now, there could be situations of grave human rights situations, I don't know, maybe, where you could argue that like, okay, we should get involved in some way to try and change that. But I think that should be like, should be seen almost in the same light as an act of war if you are going to do that. Like, if you are going to get militarily involved in the or if you are going to get involved in the sort of like, I don't know, it has to be a grave enough thing to warrant that. And obviously nothing the communist government of Cuba has done has warranted anything like this. And there's no way that this is going to help, facilitate some sort of like uprising or whatever, if I had to guess, what we're doing to them in terms of like, starving them and killing as many infants as possible. So I don't know, that's kind of like, I guess, my opinion. I guess it's a case by case basis, but like this is one where it's like, obviously like eviscerating the population should never be the solution. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, if there was some sort of grave human rights violation or something, like you shouldn't starve the entire population to try and stop the, like, you shouldn't kill everybody to stop the government from killing everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, that just seems counterproductive and wrong.
Collective punishment is a war crime after all, and there is no other way to look at what we've done, especially as Trump has like basically said the quiet part out loud and restricted all oil from going into the island. It's impossible to ignore.
Yes, it is. And according to what he's saying, it sounds like this story is not going away anytime soon. Hasan Piker, thank you for sharing your view.
He did really good on that one. I thought they were going to talk maybe a little bit about his controversies or like the recent sort of like or like the manufactured controversies or whatever. But I guess he didn't really on this one. Yeah, it doesn't look like he did on this one. Okay, well, that was Hasan on Cuba.